All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start our policy meeting at 6:50. All that are present, please state your name. Anybody?
Ashley Godfrey. Kristen Cox.
Greg Cooper.
Julia Olson.
Rob Irwin.
Okay. So for new business, our first policy is regarding meetings, 006.
Bucky, I would recommend starting with policy 903 if you're okay with that, because that was the topic we wanted addressed. You okay with that?
Yes. Absolutely. I think we were just... Yeah, this is when I got in trouble for it. Don't record that. Okay. All right. Yes, we're going to start off with policy 903, public participation in board meetings.
Okay, if you guys remember, at the board's request, we brought up this policy, and basically this is about our practices as a board and how we want people to participate. Specifically, there was some talk about Zoom and possibly allowing some participation in Zoom. So let's start with that. If you guys want to discuss that among yourselves and what your thoughts are, I'll certainly give my opinions if you want it. That's okay too.
I'm going to abstain on this one for the moment, just because the last time. I mean, I didn't necessarily think this was like a terrible idea, but of course, no, I'm not. But I also want to be up till midnight listening to the 400th and 12th person repeat the same question, right? So I guess I'm good with that. I guess my thought was before was I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I think I've come around to realize the ramification here of opening this up to Zoom. It'd be a long night. And I think there's something, and I believe Julia might have brought it up. Somebody brought up about people being here. And maybe it wasn't Julia, but it was somebody. And I wasn't against that, but maybe you were like that, I think. That was probably you. That's why that lady liked me better. So, yeah, I'm not, I have no problem with making people, frankly, come in here. Rob, what's your opinion?
Well, I'm all in favor of transparency. I think that's a really important part of governance. I think it has to be balanced against, one thing that's positive about making people come in here is they have to sign in, and so we can identify and who they are. While I think public participation is good, I think it also, if we were to do something like this, I would suggest, I don't know that we want people asking questions from Zoom. I would have them just listening via Zoom. I would also, if you were to do it, I would recommend doing it just for the Cal. You can always come and comment at the voting meeting later on. You certainly wouldn't open up the chat in regards to that because there would be all kinds of harassment that goes there. The one thing we want to, regardless of the policy we want to make sure we answer for Daniel Boone residents and Daniel Boone residents only in terms of public comments, which is really, if we decide to go to Zoom, we have to make sure that it doesn't get hijacked by outside special interest groups. If you go back into the history of Daniel Boone, there's been outside groups flood our meeting, but we don't allow them to comment, and so periodically that does happen. The positives of it is the more transparency I think there is, the better people have an understanding of stuff. So that's a good piece there about doing that type of stuff.
So more transparency, meaning in person. They have a better handle. Is that what you mean?
If you want to do Zoom, you can certainly broadcast it on Zoom. I just don't know if I have people asking questions. And I would probably only do it in the Cal, but that's just me, because they can comment in the voting meeting. Generally speaking, we discuss in the Cal, and then they can come and comment in person. I also recognize there are fair opinions on all sides of this issue. I understand the need for transparency, which is real important.
So just allow this during the town meetings, not the voting meetings, and never allow the comments.
See, the one thing he just said, I'm just saying, but I like what he's stating. I mean, we do want to limit it to Daniel Boone parents. Even if they're not, I'm just throwing my 2 cents in, but even if they're not asking questions, to Rob's point, you have special interest groups, the tax groups, all those people that are out there. Even if they can't ask, they're at least, you know, we should make them come here.
Yeah, but I agree with, I don't have any opposition to being on Zoom for any meetings. My issue is that they should have to come to the meeting to speak, and they know the topic if they listen to the town meeting. Will they be able to like rewatch the meetings, or they have to watch it well, maybe not?
Rob?
No, they would be able to re-listen, just like we can re-listen now, like when we put the minutes up, I mean, when we put the minutes up, I know we don't do it until a little later, but you can listen to it at any time, it'll still be the same. You can listen to it at any time. One thing I was gonna say was, there is still the opportunity, if someone cannot come here, they still always have the opportunity to email an administrator or email us with their concerns ahead of time. Or after they've been listening on the phone, they could email us afterwards, with any comments that they have, which is the way things have been up until now.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should just be able to email us or whatever, they have to be here. But I don't understand. We can't Zoom or vote.
Oh, that,
I didn't say that. Someone else said that.
Okay.
It'd be easier.
So if we had Zoom, just they have to be present to ask questions. And to your point, Julia, they all just have to do is they can send us an email, what have you. There's ways to connect with it, and they could probably almost connect with us during the meeting. Not that we have to answer it, but technically we could get an email that comes up to the group while they're watching us on Zoom. So if Rob, with that, I don't even put you on the spot. I guess it just doesn't make, if we go with Zoom but no questions, that should eliminate most of our concerns. And special interest groups getting on board and
I didn't think, if we were gonna do it that way, I didn't hear the rationale for doing it differently, but I would think that it should be fine to have folks being able to listen in both at the committee of the whole and the voting meeting. If from home you can't be just like,
they just can't ask questions.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I agree with that.
I would also caution you that with the email thing coming in, I know I'm not part of the committee.
You're
but
not in the committee.
Doesn't matter. Kick me out. That would open up a can of worms, man, because then it would just be, that would be their avenue to ask all those questions. I know if I really wanted to ask questions and I knew you guys were looking at your email, I'm going that route.
We don't have to respond.
But
You don't have to, but I'm saying,
but people already do,
not during the meetings. They email during the meeting and then you present their question. I'm just saying, I would come
I have gotten
as a caution.
emails during
Right.
meetings.
That's not gonna make us sit here till midnight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you're right, you don't have to.
I got you. You don't
wait
have to.
respond at a later time or whatever. And that's what the Secretary's correspondence section of the committee of the whole is for.
So we have a pretty good, do we all kind of agree, Zoom, both meetings, but no questions? So they can watch. Or, what do you think, Tanya? Rob?
I'm just kind of curious, Rob said maybe just the committee of the whole.
Did you say that, Rob, just the committee of the whole?
Well, and the only reason really behind that was just the thought process and vote the committee. I mean, it's basically harmless if they're not asking questions back and forth. It was just, the cow is, we vote on things that we discuss in the cow, but it's basically harmless, that's all.
Is that what do you think? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm fine with that if we just do a committee of the whole. We're giving them the information. They have 2 weeks now to get us at the end of the month.
Isn't there things sometimes added to the voted meeting?
Yeah, sometimes there's an added consent, typically they're along on personnel additions, like we have to get somebody hired, to get in class.
I'm all for transparency because maybe it'll stop the overwhelm on Facebook.
Yeah. I was just curious as to what the reasoning was for that. I mean, it's fine if I need to vote.
Is it more work to have it for the meetings or?
Scott's gonna, he just has to bring something to set it up. I mean, it's a little more work, but it's not anything that's.
Especially, he almost doesn't even have to, probably, well, maybe he has to watch it, but in case it goes down, but he doesn't have to worry about, respectfully Julia going, so who's next, Mr. Matz, you know what I mean?
I guess the question to the board is, in a Zoom webinar setting, would you want it set up so that the meeting's being taped to the corner so everybody can see you on the screen? Or is it just audio where it's a green screen or something, and it's a webinar with you all talking or sharing?
I don't want a camera on me for the whole thing, like right in my face.
Yeah.
If it's like a camera over there, it's fine.
Well,
But I don't want my
They're not going to zoom in on you. Like, pardon the pun, but
We should have
To be honest, it's probably a capability with those Logitech devices to put it in a corner and hang it in the room where
I think it makes it
the Hollywood
easier.
Squares are the people from home.
BCTC does that group thing, and it sucks.
Yeah, BCTC has it.
You know what, maybe that, yeah, I don't mind that if we just did a black screen just with the audio. All right, so,
Wouldn't know who filled out the AIDS last time.
oh, I would just make sure I introduce myself. That didn't do me any good anyway, by the way. All right, so is it fair to put a little, so I guess there's a couple things. One is the Zoom for both meetings, but I think we all agree, I don't want to speak for anybody, but we all agree, no comments. So, Tanya, do you agree with that at least? Okay, I'm not, is Scott free? You agree? Okay. Kevin? Oh, yeah, you're not in the meeting?
I agree.
Okay.
I think.
Julie, are you good with that? Just,
I'm not in this meeting.
Do you have to mention that they can't do that? Because they can now, but just send them in. Can't you say that you can send your comments in? You don't have to say, well, you can't do this.
You don't have to say
you know what I mean?
one way or the other. I'm
Yeah.
just saying people,
I don't think it needs to be.
could, just like they
But
could
one of the things-
before.
there's a way we can shut that down, right?
They
Yes,
can't
Oh,
do
you
it.
mean
You don't have to set up.
commenting?
Yeah, we don't want commenting.
Right, you just don't.
No, they can watch, they can send us an email just like anything else, or they can come here in person and talk to us.
Questions?
So when we're done at 9:30 with the 12 people that are here, we're done.
Questions are in person. It's pretty simple.
Okay,
Just close out the chat function.
so tonight I should bring it up in the meeting, then we're agreeing on Zoom for voting and
Well, this is first,
first reading.
yeah, this is first reading still.
So we
That-
get to,
It'll go into effect probably
Over.
October meeting.
That's going through 2 meetings, so.
Yeah.
So, this will go on first reading, go on first reading the next meeting.
I see.
First reading usually.
Okay, so,
There's a
so
couple
we
other.
voting on it again.
Yeah, there's a couple clauses that you guys should take a look at also, I
Yep.
would recommend. You got a couple minutes here, Bucky, on this one? If you look at it, just take a look at under guidelines on page 1. You have to decide who you want, the way this is written here is pretty broad, that's as goes language. Whether you want it that broad or not, that's up to you. What public participants do you want to be able to participate in our board meetings?
Would,
Residents.
it would be residents and in person, right? Is that, I'm missing some?
So you want to change that language to the board requires that public participants be residents or taxpayers of the district?
Right, you removing like the groups.
No, they just have to be, they have to live in our, that group is in Douglasville, so they would be.
So that might be like a special interest group.
Somebody in like, OJ.
Yeah, well, right now it says anyone representing a group of the community. So like, if you're, I don't know, a pastor of a church in Murfreesboro, but you don't live in a district, so are you allowed to speak?
Right, then you can't. So anybody in our area, our school district, resident or taxpayer can speak.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want somebody.
You don't want the,
That's not.
Well, the way it says right now.
well, no, he's changing that.
Oh, so you're.
No, we're saying changing it.
Hey, Bucky, that's up to you guys if you want to allow them to speak there.
No, I'm not saying you're changing without our permission, but I'm agreeing.
You could cover the representatives of firm eligible to bid on materials and all that stuff. You could cover that by saying something that anyone who's invited to speak by the board. Because that's now, you know, because we don't have that clause in the current one, right? So you could just like kind of cover those other ones by saying, people that are invited to speak by the board at the board's discretion or something like that. I don't know how you would say it.
So you'd say the board requires that the public participants be residents or taxpayers of this district or anyone representing a group or community invited by the board or something along the, but I,
Yeah, you can put something like that in there when you phrase it. I mean, what we should phrase it is fine.
Because we already do that, when we
Right.
have somebody, like the guy from the county who came to talk about the TIF, he was invited by us to speak.
right.
Even
So
though he
anyone
doesn't.
representing a group.
You know.
All right.
But
All right.
I mean, previous boards have held very, very keenly to the only people who would speak are residents, taxpayers, or their attorneys, and that's the only people that were able to speak. We've been a little bit relaxed in that last couple of years, but
Okay.
So
So
you're not using a district employee.
the way that it's written now, and the way it can be interpreted, no, district employees don't speak here unless they are,
Right.
or they are district, unless they live in the school district. That's the way it's been in the past. But, like, we've invited the union president to speak sometimes, even on the list of district.
Yeah.
that's right. She moved.
So,
But it,
the current.
Rob, if I'm just going to write it like, that was invited by the board to speak after the community group, and then we could word it correctly.
We can wordsmith it.
Okay. Is that the only thing you want to change on that?
Well, again, I'm just bringing stuff to your attention.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not saying you I apologize.
If you look on the second page,
Sure.
and you guys have to make a decision here, it says, no participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. Basically, do you want to allow someone to keep coming up to speak about the same topic?
You could change it to unless an exception is made by the board. Good. I wanted to go back to the first paragraph on the second page. It says all individuals wishing to participate in the public board meeting shall register their intent with the board secretary in advance of the We don't do that.
You are correct, you don't. That's proposed language from PASBO.
Can we cross that out then?
Yeah.
I mean, they can write me a letter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I
But
can
it
read
isn't
it.
Something that's required.
You're right. No, I'm following you.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Okay, and back to the other thing. You're saying no participant may speak unless okayed by the board, or
Yeah. I mean, like, we've been in that situation before where it's someone who, you know, was up here and said, I had 3 things to say and I forgot what the last one is. And then they go sit down. And if the meeting's not super crowded, you can see them like, and, you know, we let them come back up. And but that's like an exception to the rule technically.
that lady came up twice
Yes.
at the last meeting.
Absolutely. But I let her go. It was quiet.
Delightful. Okay. Anything else you want to point out, Rob?
That's all I have to point out.
Okay, so just so we're clear, so this is first reading tonight. I'm only going to say that we.
Just highlighting what we talked about tonight.
So should I say tonight at the meeting that we discussed Zoom with the voting meeting in the cow, and then online, or the online would be or online Zoom or what have you would be a black screen. Do I need to go that far?
I don't think you need to go in.
Fine. Okay, and it just we'll mention that we request people to be in person to vote, to ask questions.
To provide public comment.
Okay.
This is a policy we clearly want to have reviewed by our solicitor also.
Yeah.
Do I want to write that down that we're going to have our solicitor review that? No.
No, we always.
Well, I get it. I just didn't know. I mean, especially if Tanya's friend is here, I need to make sure that. I'm not even looking at her, and I can see her. Okay. So, Rob, is that then we'll go back to 6?
Yes, and this is probably the whole we're going to get done tonight. Then that one, this one deals with attendance at meetings via electronic communications. This is pertinent to you guys as a board because your ability to call in is reflected in this policy. The policy as written is how they have it through PASBO and what their recommendations are here. The questions are for you guys, and this is relevant for a lot of reasons because years ago we had someone calling in quite often, okay, to board meetings. However, this policy is up for review at this point in time. The questions for you guys, if you take skim through the policy itself, is what are the requirements we want to have to allow board members to call in, okay, to the meetings themselves, and how often do you want to allow that to happen on an unlimited basis, or caps on it, things like that. That is clearly a governance issue in regards to what the board wants to do. The language in here, you can see, pay particular attention to the bold names that are there. And obviously it addresses the emergency situations like the pandemic and stuff like that, which is one of the reasons why this was up. For example, if we look, do you want them to have to submit a request to the board president 3 days in advance in order to do that? I mean, is that something you want or not? Don't want?
Well, I don't know if any of us were. Well, Julie, you might have a history on this, or Rob, you might. How was it limited before? We all know who you're talking about, who used to call in on a regular basis, and we don't want that.
This policy's been changed in almost every board that's been here in terms of how much, how often, and so it really depended on the boards.
I don't know how illness weather conditions and other emergency situations comports with somebody giving me notice 3 days before it happens.
Agreed.
I don't know how those two things go together.
I think 3 days is a lot.
Right, and so, the 2 and 3, I think, are fine, but I don't think, I mean, it doesn't even say I have to approve the request, just that somebody has to tell me 3 days in advance. I was like, you know, that's not an emergency situation to me, you know. What do you think, Bucky?
I mean, listen, I'm the one that misses out on the Thursday meetings because of work, but it would be extremely rare. But I would probably know about a work situation, you know, or I would think if I was sick, I'd probably know reasonably earlier in the day at least. I don't think 3 days is, I think 3 days is a lot.
Yeah, so I don't,
But at the same time, we don't want to have a board member going forward who does this on a regular basis. And that's a fine line.
there's nothing in here about, didn't previous boards have a threshold where they weren't supposed to be participating electronically more than a certain number of times
Yeah, and
a year?
I'd be shooting for the hip on that, but there was something like, it was like half of all board meetings or something like that. And the question is, do you want to have a threshold?
I think we do. I know I would be in favor of that. Can you read that? Okay. Anyway, well, how do we?
I would get rid of, under 2 attended board meeting for electronic communication. I would just get rid of, number 1, or even change it to like, I don't know, like, submit a request to the board president, an hour before the meeting, that'd be fine with me.
That would be okay?
Yeah.
Because it would be a real. We've all made a commitment to be here, so
But that leaves room for
work.
discretion,
Right. Right.
You know,
But again, you know, if you call it out 6 times, yes, there's going to be that point where you. It's hard to put a number on that, though. I guess over a whole year, you could. I don't know. I've only been on that phone once. You do that phone once, you never want to call in again. Bev will realize that tonight. So do 1 hour.
that's fine.
So get rid of 24 hours. But to your point, Julia, is there a threshold? It's hard to sit here and make that decision tonight, I guess. Is it 12 times?
You can also, say that, if someone's not going to be here at all, because they're in a car accident, nobody needs to tell me, but if they want to, do it by phone, I guess I need to know that before the meeting's going to start, right?
But we don't want. I guess the point here is, and I'll state the obvious: we don't want somebody to be out of state and be a part of this board
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. So. Rob,
I mean, there's times where it is beneficial for you to call in, because I'd rather be able to call in than just the meeting.
I agree with that. We'd rather have that. Rob, is that something we should address again later, or do we need to discuss the threshold?
I would probably try to come up with a recommendation from this committee in regards to what you think the threshold
Okay.
should be, or should there even be a
So,
threshold?
so
That's
could
some questions.
could we say something like, I'm just throwing this out, but I mean 6 times, unless an emergency, weather, pandemic. I mean, they would have something like that. I don't know. I mean,
The thing you gotta be careful about is some people travel a lot from work and you don't want to accidentally trip, you know. So
Yeah, I mean, maybe we make it 12. Maybe we make it 12. You know, I'm not trying to, again, you know, I know, I'm trying to cut you off. So, but I don't know. Do we go a bigger number at 12? I mean, 12 over a year would be, that's a lot. It's one every technically month or 4 months. You're right. Brett, would you have a thought on that at all? Okay, thank you. What do you think? 12 is a fair number? I mean, I think if you go over 12, you're
Well, that kind
and
of.
I think, and then that's where Julia,
We have somebody living in Colorado, if you set it 12, which is almost half the meetings.
Right.
And they have to be in person for like 1 month, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want a situation where people are calling in to every meeting and living out of state, but they still have residents here, so that they're allowed to be on the board.
Okay.
We want it, like, if you said like half, then they have to be present, hopefully, for at least one of the meetings.
is it fair to say 12 and then not more than, I don't know, for lack of anything, 3 meetings in a row? Like, you know, something like that? Like, I mean, 12 would be the ultimate, but, you know, you can't just be, I mean, short of an emergency, you're in the hospital, you're sick.
I think you could put something in there, Bucky, like an exception will be granted by a majority vote of the board or something like that. You know, to-
Okay, so no more than 12? Can we say that? Oh,
Yeah.
thought he was on vacation. And then, so we could, what, you want me to put on there, like, we can vote on an exception after that? What did he just, what was Rob?
Technically, you don't have to say that. because
Okay.
The board can vote on.
All right.
As a majority can vote on and make an exception to any board policy. So technically, you don't have to do that. If someone gets jammed up and for whatever reason, then they have a reasonable excuse. Or you can, for clarity's sake, sometimes boards put that in the language themselves just for the sake of clarity.
Okay. All right, so do we all agree with that? Okay. And then 1 hour, Julie would have to get a notice. I think that's extremely fair. All right, I'm moving on.
That policy also, we're going to let Brian review that policy also.
I'm sorry, what?
We're going to have our attorney review that policy also.
Okay,
And the board, the full board will have an opportunity to discuss both of those, like you said, the first and second reads, because they revolve, especially because they revolve around board-related matters.
okay. So we had one more policy, right, Rob? But we have like,
Yeah, but I think we're going to run out of time.
fair enough.
See how long that one
All right,
is.
no problem. All right, that concludes our meeting and thank you.